Hey everybody, welcome back to A Gentleman's Life. I just unboxed something. Unfortunately, I didn't think to film the unboxing, but I want to flip through it. I've looked through it a little bit. I'm going to flip through and show you a few things. So first and foremost, I'll just show you what it is. I got this wonderful book in the mail. It's a book essentially with the history of Zenith. So I thought we could flip through a little bit, look at it, and give you guys an idea of what's in here. These watch company and watch history books are extremely expensive. I also looked at there's a book about the history of the Omega Speedmaster. It's like $350. This one's about 150. There's a Rolex book that's about 400 and something. It's amazing. But looking through them, it's really interesting. And I think that if you're looking collecting a specific brand or a line from a brand or something like that, something like this is a good thing to look into. So I'm going to flip it around and we'll have a look. All right, here we go, guys. So as you can see here, Zenith, Swiss watch manufacturer since 1865. They've got an El Primero on the front, and that is the author. Originally, it was I believe done in German. It took a while to get an English translation, but now we have one. And flipping it open, you can see pretty well done. It's broken up here into like early history, the overall history, some cool advertising, a bit about movements and calibers, and they break it down into pocket watches, some chronometers, and then wristwatches as a whole, followed by the Elite line, early chronographs, and then the El Primero line, which was the most interesting to me because that's what I'm most interested in. The 3019, which I would like to find at some point, and then of course the Chronomaster, which is one I already have, and then some other bits and pieces. So if we flip it open a little bit, you kind of get a little preface, a bit about the starting of the company before it was even called Zenith, and some early history. You can see it's a really nice, well done book. And we can flip through a little bit farther and get into the next one, which is the overall history of the company. And you can see some here. Eventually, 1911, it was joint stock company, Fabrique de Montrez Zenith SA. And it goes on, and it gets into here how basically with the creation of the El Primero, within a few years the quartz crisis had truly hit. The company was bought by the American Zenith Radio Corporation, which then mandated a full switch to quartz, and actually told it's weird. That shadow is weird. It eventually told the company to get rid of all the mechanical movements that were left, get rid of all their machinery for making it. But there were certain people that worked at the company who actually just kind of hid the machines in the basement, which is great for us in later years with today's El Primeros, 1980s, 1990s El Primeros, and that sort of thing. And it just kind of goes through the history there. It shows kind of one of the coolest quartz watches I think was ever created, but never did well and didn't make good money and was killed pretty quick. Really interesting quartz. And then it shows some of their interesting just advertising sections. You can see some of these cool old posters that are in here. Now, at some point, I'll probably delve more into the depth of some of the other Zenith lines, but right now, I'm pretty much most interested in the history of the El Primeros as the first automatic or self-winding chronograph, one of which I own. That's what I'm most interested in, but I'll probably delve and move on later into some of the pocket watch history and the hand winding and pilot watches and that sort of thing. And then we have a section about movements and calibers. You can see kind of a screenshot of the original written stuff. And here, we literally have a listing of all these different movements and a lot of the statistics that they were made with, which I find really interesting. And then kind of what they were used for over on the right. So if we work our way down, so this is the third page. On page 4 here, most interesting to me, you have the 3019 PHC and 3019 PHF, which were your first two variants of the El Primero movement. followed by the 400, 405, 410, and 420. Mine is a 410, specifically a 410Z, which was the last version of the 410 to be made through the early 2000s. And you can see right here the 410, which includes the 410Z, as you work your way over, 36,000 beat. From 1987 through 2003, about 35,800 were produced. With the Chronomaster, full calendar, moon phase. So that's the movement I have in my Zenith. If you go back, the 405 is more or less the same, slightly different in size, from 97 through 2002. Just under 11,000 made. It was a rainbow flyback. And then the 400 was specifically, the Cal 400 was specifically the El Primero movement that was produced for Rolex from 87 through 2000 for their Daytonas, when they brought the Daytona back. All right, and then the 3019 PH is the most famous of them. That was the first self-winding chronograph. You can see it was only produced from 69 through 76, and there was 37,200, which makes you wonder, why were there only 2,500 of the original, like, kind of well-known Zenith El Primero? Well, these were also delivered to Rolex, Panerai, and a number of other companies, as well as even Movado. The Datrons, certain Datrons had them, which are kind of collectible Movados now. So that's a bit different. And here you can see we've got a bunch of different movements. So you can kind of see the differences in them, which I think is really interesting. And then here we kind of get into the pocket watch section, and there's some really wonderful examples of some old Zenith pocket watches here. Look at that one right there. Really interesting. Interesting decoration there on that one. That one's really nice if you look at that. In gold. That one's nice, classy and classic look. Now that one has kind of a simple movement there. This one, with that moon phase, date of the week, etc. See down here, that one has a really pretty hand winder. You can see a whole number of different things as they work their way through. There's a lot of pocket watches. I mean, it just kind of goes on and on. There's a really interesting one, really neat looking. I also really like this one. This one's very rare. You can see it has red numbers for 12, 1, 18, 24, etc. Really interesting. And then the seconds on the outside are also in red. And you can see it had 60 here and 60 here for the seconds. So there's one set, and then here's another set. Really interesting. Very different. Really nice engraving on the case back there. Again, a very lovely movement, and you can see the just really classy design there. Some bit more artistic ones. More military styled ones. Pocket alarm clock, 1920s. Let's flip it over to the next section. We have wristwatches. You can kind of see some different hand wind examples. Kind of flip through rather quickly and look for some interesting ones. That's a really interesting design right there, actually. You can see the inside of the case, really interesting. That's neat, actually. Different. Caliber 135 was considered an interesting caliber as a chronometer. Here's some of the military ones. You can see there. That old loom. That's probably a World War I era. About probably late 19 teens, 1920. Yeah, 1920. Some very interesting ones. That's another kind of cool looking one. Quite like that one right there. Simple and classic. So, really interesting book, and I really think the history of these is actually very interesting, especially for brands that you're actually interested in numerous models or numerous variations of the same model and trying to figure out the differences. These can be really handy. So you can see kind of the quartz era stuff they were getting into. There's that one, as I was mentioning. A bit different. Keep going through here. Let's switch over to the early chronographs. Oh, this was something I got nice, by the way. And I got in the mail when I got home. This was just a handwritten note from the Omega Boutique in Las Vegas, so I thought that was really nice to get. Use it as a bookmark there. You can see some of their hand wind caliber early chronographs. There's an interesting example. That is a really interesting early example. This is a kind of a really interesting early single pusher I really like, actually. Actually, here's another single pusher right here from 1920. Really nice. See the insides of it there. Get into some of the more military, that's a military styled single pusher, which is interesting. Keep working our way through. Here's there's an earlier moon phase. An interesting one there. And then we get on to the El Primero, which is kind of the one that really ended up making them famous. We got kind of a nice intro history of the El Primero. I'm talking about how that started. And then here you get the more modern, from 87 to new variations, as mentioned, the 400 there. And then the 405. And then the 410, which is the variation that I have. And lastly, the 420, which is the hand wind variation. You get all the different technical data and the number that were made. So you can see here there was about and the information about them. So it's really interesting, number of pieces, etc. And then here they go into the different reference numbers for the El Primero. So this is the caliber 3019, which was until 1986. And the most famous of these calibers, and the one most people look for, is the A386, which I would love to find at some point, someday, which had the 3019 PHC, as mentioned, was made from 69 to 71 with 2,500 pieces, and that was a silver-plated face with a steel case. Now there are other variations of this. The 385 had a gray face with a steel case. There's 2,400 of those. And the 384 was silver-plated again with a steel bracelet with about 2,600. But as you can see, of the original, those are kind of the original three El Primeros, if you will. I mean, they have other variations here, like the gold versions and stuff, which are different variations of the same thing. I just happen to like steel because of its ability to get abused a bit more. But there's only about 2,500 plus or minus of each of these in the years that they were made. So there's quite a rare watch, to be honest. And let's see what kind of pictures we got here. We can find a 386. Here's a 384. It's more of a squarish case. There's a gold variant, 82. Here's a 386 right here. Nice picture of a 386. Here's another example of a 386 right there. Just a really distinct and classic look, and knowing there's only about 2,500 of them is really interesting. Really interesting indeed. And you get into the more modern variations like mine. This is a gold variant. And then you got into some special versions of it, which you get listed, which there is a very few. That's probably the closest example to what I have right there. All right, the braceleted version, which I don't care for the bracelet that much, to be honest. I think this is a watch that belongs on leather. Some gold, special, nice variants, and so on. And then, you know, you just kind of finish off the book with some of the more modern stuff and other like wall clocks and things like that. I don't want this video to go on forever, but I did want to share with you guys some of the interesting stuff in here. Cockpit clock for an airplane. So, hope you all enjoyed that, and let me know if you like this kind of thing, and maybe if I ever find anything else like this and drop the cash on it, which probably won't happen anytime soon, I can have a look at that as well, or any magazines I get or anything like that. So, yep, hope you all enjoyed that. So guys, hope you enjoyed a look at the Zenith book. Oh, wristwatch check. I am wearing the Speedmaster Professional, and as you can see, I put it on this really nice kind of green nylon. It's got a leather on the inside of the nylon, hand stitched into it, and I think it really just gives the watch a whole different look, and I really like it. If you wonder, the strap came from Crown and Buckle, and I've always been really pleased with their stuff. So if you want, have a look. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and until next time.